So, the talk of college football nation on Monday night was the Oregon video that dropped. It was beautiful. It was cinematic. It was all about Oregon beating Colorado. They set up the storyline perfectly. And we saw Shiloh Sanders talking trash before the game. We saw Dan Lanning, Oregon's coach, saying, talk with your pads. We saw Tosh Lapoy, Oregon's defensive coordinator, saying, they don't deserve your attention. And then we saw Oregon crush Colorado in a game that was watched by 10 million people. It had a slightly higher audience than the audience that watched Notre Dame and Ohio State in a game that came down to the final play in primetime. But prime, was in Eugene getting whooped. And they had basically the same number of people watching on ABC for a game that was not competitive for even 1 second. That's what's going on here. This is the entertainment business, college football is. And I realize everybody's got an opinion on Deion Sanders and wants to gatekeep the sport from the casuals coming in because they're just riding on Deion's coattails into the sport, or the people who want to say, well, we do it the right way. We do it differently than Deion. This is all awesome for college football. Every bit of this. And it's pro wrestling. It is purely pro wrestling. I just started watching that show Wrestlers on Netflix. And Al Snow, the former WWE wrestler who runs Ohio Valley Wrestling and teaches all the new wrestlers how to work in the business. Like he puts it pretty simply in the first episode. You got to have a heel that generates heat, and you got to have a baby face that gets over. Well, Deion Sanders is playing both of those characters, depending on who you are in college football this year. And now Dan Lanning, Oregon's coach, has happily played along. You know, everybody's thinking, well, Dan Lanning's doing it differently. No, he's not. Dan Lanning sensed an opportunity and is taking advantage of it, because we weren't talking about Colorado on Monday night when Oregon dropped that video. We were talking about Oregon because of Colorado. This ecosystem is becoming symbiotic. So let's take a look at that a clip from that Oregon video. It was something that everybody had an opinion on, and it is it's just spectacularly done. But some of the stuff in there, you're like, wow, I did not think they'd put that in there.
Rooted in substance. Today, we talk with our past. When they talk, you don't say sh**. You don't say sh**. You talk with me. You talk to your house. I'll be the anyone
So the music was swelling, but they had subtitles on the Shiloh Sanders trash talk. He's talking to the Oregon players as everybody's getting warmed up before the game. And he says, I'll beat the bleep out of every one of y'all and your coach. He said, we're finna run through your asses. And the Oregon players in the Oregon video aren't responding. And you have Tosh Lapoy, the DC, saying they don't deserve your attention. And by the way, no one's going to mess with Tosh Lapoy after this video. If you've ever met Tosh Lapoy, you realize he's not someone to be messed with in the first place, but no one is messing with Tosh Lapoy after this. It's spectacular because it feeds off of the attention that Deion brought. And it's crazy because Oregon was the program that for years we said, oh, they're all flash, no substance. They're just about the uniforms. They're about Nike. Yet Oregon got to show you there's quite a bit of substance to that football program, quite a bit of beef on the offensive and defensive lines, quite a bit of talent in those groups. You saw them crush Colorado, and they're still riding the wave. We're still talking about them. Dan Lanning has a little part to play in that as well. And I think, I keep waiting for somebody to take the mantle from Steve Spurrier, who was the greatest at being a really good college football coach, but also understanding this is fun and you don't have to say the right thing all the time. You don't have to say the politically correct thing all the time. You can say you can't spell citrus without UT. You can tell the old Auburn library joke the library burned down, and shame half the books hadn't even been colored in yet. Steve Spurrier said all that stuff in public, all of it. Deion understands this. Dan Lanning, I think, understands this too. And he had an interesting answer. He got asked about something that Skip Bayless said, and it was very telling.
You're on the right.
Coach, there's been a lot of talk nationally about your pregame speech and your aggressive play calling. I think Skip Bayless called it venomous vengeance. Just curious what your thoughts are on that and kind of how your words have been skewed a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know Skip at all. I've never had a conversation with him. I've watched him enough to know how often he gets it wrong. So, I mean, that sounds about right. But, I mean, ultimately, here's what I say. We're playing to win the game, right? And you saw a 15-second clip from a window view outside the house of what happens in the locker room, right? I know our locker room. I'm in the house 100% of the time. I know how our players felt going into that game. And I know what it takes to motivate our players. That's my job, to motivate our players, right? He has a job. I have a job too, to get out there and to perform on the field. But inside that house, they felt a certain way. They felt a certain way about a group stomping on the O. They felt a certain way about guys talking to him in the pregame. And I'm proud of those guys because what they decided to do is talk with their pads, right? They didn't want to do anything extra afterwards. They want to talk with their pads, and they did that on Saturday. I'm also grateful and can clearly acknowledge that the attention that we got this Saturday, in large part, was due to Deion and what he's doing to college football. And if anybody can't see what he's done for college football and how he's bringing excitement to college football, you're crazy, right? And I said that last week as well. He's done a lot for the game. He's building something over there. I think that's really, really clear. There's no secret there. But it wouldn't matter if I was playing my 10-year-old son on the other sideline. I'm going to do everything I can to win. If I'm playing Bill Belichick, I'm going to do everything I can to win. Did I go for it on fourth down? Yeah, I have every game this year. Right, I've gone for it 9 times. Did I go for a 2-point conversion? Yeah, I've done it 3 out of the 4 games this year. And if we play again tomorrow, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do everything I can to win a game and everything I can to motivate my team. So, that to me is classless. What he's saying there, but I'm not really worried about it.
See, Dan gets a shot in at Skip Bayless, which that's definitely going to get played on Skip Bayless's show, and they'll all have a good laugh. And he understands the game. And he even says it later in that clip. He thanks Deion for bringing all this attention and basically enlarging the sport of college football. There are people watching college football who never have before. There are people paying attention to college football who never have before. That is a good thing. That's a good thing for the sport. Now, the morning debate shows, you might need to get some folks who actually watch college football on. I'm just saying, I'm available. I ain't hard to find, as Deion would say. But I'm glad you're talking about it. I am glad that this sport, which I think, and I know most of you guys think, is the greatest sport in the universe, is being seen by more people, and more people are seeking it out because of this incredible force of nature that is Deion Sanders. Now, I wonder what happens if on Saturday, and remember, USC is going to Colorado. So the biggest actual on-field star in the sport, Caleb Williams, is going to be colliding with Deion Sanders supernova style. If USC does to Colorado what Oregon did to Colorado, does that mean that we stop paying attention, that the people who were coming into the sport stop paying attention because they say, wow, I don't know, maybe that this isn't that interesting? Maybe. I think it would be good for the sport if Colorado put up a good fight against USC. If Colorado made this game not look like the Oregon game. And if you saw the USC-Arizona State game, there's a chance. There's a chance Colorado can put up some points. Now, Colorado's going to give up a lot of points. I think we can all be certain of that. And so far, we've not heard a lot of talk out of Colorado. The Shiloh Sanders thing is funny to me because I know there's people who think their players don't talk trash. Your team has corners and receivers. Your players talk trash. I don't really trust corners and receivers who don't talk trash. You need to have an absurd amount of self-confidence to play those positions. So you need to be able to do what Shiloh Sanders did and make yourself believe that you actually have a chance in that game against Oregon when you watched film all week and you knew you didn't. So I don't have a problem with that. I guarantee you there are Oregon players who talk trash during that game. Guarantee it. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's part of the fun of the game. But we might see it again with USC. You know, those USC players, they went out, a lot of them, they go to USC because it's close to Hollywood. It's in the epicenter of the entertainment industry. It's a huge sports town in LA. They want the attention. They're going to get the attention when they go to Boulder. And so this will be fun. This will be a very interesting litmus test. And Lincoln Riley does not seem to enjoy that level of attention. But to go with our wrestling analogy, he has definitely made a heel turn since he left Oklahoma. And it's not just to the Oklahoma people. So I wondered, will he embrace that? I've always said that Lincoln Riley, of all people, should truly embrace being the heel because he could be great at it. He doesn't like dealing with us necessarily. He likes to be in control of everything. He banned that beat writer a couple weeks ago and then let him back in, but not before everybody yelled at Lincoln Riley. So this would be a great opportunity for him to truly embrace that heel role. And the thing about college football versus wrestling is in wrestling, the baby face is usually pretty clearly defined. The heel is usually pretty clearly defined. The Attitude Era in WWE notwithstanding, they usually try to make it fairly clear to the audience who you're supposed to cheer for and who you're supposed to boo. In this situation in college football, it's flexible based on who you root for. And so you've got the one group of fans that for them, their coach will always be their baby face and the opposing coach will always be the heel. Vice versa on the other fans. And then you've got all the folks who don't have a rooting interest in the game who just decide. And it's interesting because I think it doesn't matter if you're a heel or a baby face, but what you want to be is definitively one to all of that other group of people, and they're going to watch. For Deion, I think he's a heel to a lot of people and a baby face to a lot of people. He's a different level. He's a different level of famous, a different level of market mover in sports. We don't see stuff like this very often. We don't see people like this very often. But I am absolutely fascinated by how this is developing because I think it would be fantastic for college football if Deion could keep winning this season. What we saw on Saturday suggests that's going to be very hard with that schedule. But if they can make this game even slightly interesting, it will again be the most watched game in the country. Again, that blows my mind that a game between Ohio State and Notre Dame from Notre Dame Stadium in prime time on NBC that came down to the final play got outrated by a game where Oregon could have beaten Colorado 80-6 if they'd wanted to. That blows my mind. But that tells you Deion is doing something for this sport. Dan Lanning said it himself. So if you want to see college football thrive, if you want to see college football become even bigger, and I know there's a lot of people who don't. I know there's a lot of people who look at college football the way you might look at your favorite band. You saw them in coffee shops. Now they're playing arenas. You don't like that. You don't want all these casuals coming in. I do. I think the coaches do. I think the players do. I think the administrators do. Nothing wrong with having a bunch of people interested in the thing that you're interested in. So come on, casuals. Come, join. Watch this show. Download this show on your favorite podcast platform. Like, subscribe, leave a review. Welcome. Because I think there'd be some people who turned on that game to watch Deion who watched Oregon play and were like, wow, that's a very good football team. I want to see what they do next. And maybe they'll watch the Oregon-Stanford game. Maybe they followed that video that Oregon sent out. Maybe they watched what Dan Lanning said. Maybe they say, well, I just came into this without a real fandom, but maybe that's who I like. Or maybe they'll watch this week and they'll see Caleb Williams and they'll see USC's offense and go, holy crap, that's a lot of fun. Maybe that's who I like. Then you get Colorado next year playing against all the Big 12 teams, introducing them to new audiences. It is truly amazing. And we laughed at George Kliavkoff, the Pac-12 commissioner, back in Vegas last year when he said, Deion is a very important part of this TV deal we're doing. We all know how the TV deal went. We all know how that ended. But Kliavkoff wasn't wrong about how powerful Deion was in this whole thing. And I don't think I understood that at the time, but I think we definitely understand it now. When we see these ratings rolling in, and it's great that he makes you mad if he makes you mad. It's great that he makes you happy if he makes you happy, because he makes you feel something. It's great that these dumb sports debate shows are talking college football. I'm not the target audience for this. I don't like those shows. But I admit, I get sucked in every once in a while. Like I laugh because when I go to the gym in the morning, they've got the ESPN on and it's got Get Up and or First Take, whatever time it is. And the sound's turned down. And I know what I'm going to see every time. There's going to be a Dallas Cowboys topic. There might be a Lakers topic. Well, now they're talking about college football. That's because of Deion. I hope they keep doing it. I hope they find out that Ohio State Notre Dame game, that was fire. This Notre Dame Duke game this week is going to be fun. That Florida State Clemson game that was the lead in to the Oregon Colorado game, that was incredible. There's a lot more action coming up, and this is going to be a fun year. But I would like it just because of the audience it brings in. If Deion can do a little bit more, I don't want to see them get crushed this weekend, because I think that audience might tune them out after that. Playing against the Heisman Trophy winner, playing against the team from Hollywood. Dan Lanning said the Cinderella story ends, and it did. But the Hollywood story doesn't have to end. So, Colorado, you saw Arizona State score 28 points on USC's defense. Shedeur Sanders, do your thing. Make it fun. And I bet all those people keep watching. And I bet in the process, they discover one hell of a college football season that's going on. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.